Good afternoon, good evening, good morning for some of you. Welcome to our Big Book 12-Step Workshop. My name is Herb. I'm an alcoholic. This call is being recorded. Please join me in the set-aside prayer, expressing our willingness to have our thoughts and our knowledge and our experience up to this point set aside for the potential of a new experience. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my brokenness, the 12 steps in you, for an open mind and a new experience of myself, my brokenness, the 12 steps, and especially you. Please join me in the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. We've worked very hard to come to this point, which is the crossover from the first stage of the rocket launch to the second stage of the rocket launch. We spent several weeks, maybe months even, looking at and understanding our own history in light of the information in the Big Book concerning addiction. Whatever identified addiction that we are looking at and focused on for this journey through the steps, a substance addiction or a process addiction. And it might have been because you're brand new, or it might have been because you're a long-time person and you've had a little flare-up in a different area than was the original presenting problem. Whatever it is, you got to confront and challenge and understand and hopefully deal with the addiction du jour. And to have a deeper experience of no choice. That's really the point. Understanding it is probably a prelude to the experience for most of us. The experience of, I really don't have the capacity to deal effectively with my addiction. My life shows that to me. My history demonstrates that. Maybe creating a little sense of hopelessness and desperation. Enough to go on to the second half of the first step. For those of us who have long-term freedom from addiction and long-term exposure to a 12-step program, but didn't really understand or apply the message in steps 10, 11, and 12 that we're not cured, that we have a daily reprieve, that our life is unmanageable on our own power on a daily basis. And if in fact we don't connect effectively with power, our life will deteriorate subtly, almost unnoticeably, but at some point creating a suffering described in the doctor's opinion as restless, irritable, and discontent. And it has various colors, all captured in the bedevilments. And we need to find power. We don't know where, and we don't know what, and we don't know how. but we're led to a process of answering each of those questions. And again, we return to deep within ourselves, we have free will. We really do have choice, not over our addiction and not over managing our life, but we have a choice of power or no power. In the universe and deep inside ourselves, a power which we get to name. And then decide that we want a relationship with. We name it in step 2. It's an act of faith. It has no concreteness to it. It has no certitude to it. It doesn't necessarily have any feeling attached to it. It's very vague in one sense, and yet it's very concrete in another sense. It's vague in the sense that faith is a decision. It's very concrete that the decision is meaningless unless you're taking action. The evidence that you have faith is how your feet move. And that first baby step is the step to turn, a decision to turn. And as I've been very clear, the book is very clear. Step 3 is very clear. It's a decision to turn, and underneath it is the powerlessness to do so. What a conundrum. Other than the experience so far is that we've been carried. It looked like a flimsy reed, and it happened to be the rope attached to a life preserver. And we make this decision, and you've all made the decision by even showing up today, knowing that, in fact, not only would we review step 3, but that as a community, we would pray the step 3 prayer together. That's what the big book suggests when we read that. It said the wording is optional. Many of you have written out your own 3rd step prayer, not to improve the one in the book, but to understand the one in the book, to have a deeper relationship with what the book is inviting us to do. To have an attitude of turning our will and our life over to the care of God. What do we mean by that? We're self-centered. That's what we mean. And our will is powerless to be other than self-centered, except that we can choose God or no God. We can choose a relationship or no relationship. We can choose to turn and completely submit to the reality that we will be turned, and we won't control that. We'll influence it. Somebody in a meeting I was at last night read a little bit from the 12 and 12 in chapter 7, working with others. And I'm familiar with it, but not as familiar as the big book. And he read a piece that I had not paid any attention to before, and it said, really, it addressed the willingness and grace sort of question that I've raised before, which comes first, willingness or grace, grace or willingness. And it didn't create the question in that terminology, but what it said is that this awakening that is promised in the 12th step is a gift. A gift, freely given, can't be earned, can't be lost. Can't be earned. It's a gift, grace. And yet the steps are the preparation to receive the gift. Brilliant. I think it's page 107 or 127 in the 12 and 12. I forget the exact page number. The work of the 12 steps, which we do, that's our responsibility, that's our willingness, and that's our action. And we can do that leaning gently into the dimmer switch. That predisposes us for the gift. In some fashion, at some time, not in our control, actually not even in our influence. That's where we're at. Made a decision to turn. Not a passive decision, not a passive attitude, not a passive action. There's nothing about step 3 that is a surrender. Step 1 is a surrender. Defeated, and we give up, we surrender. Step 3 is, as I've mentioned before, and I think I've used the terms, kind of startles people. It's not in the big book. A ferocious act of my will. A ferocious act of my will, with all the determination that I can muster. I attempt to establish a relationship with that power that is deep down inside of me, and I make a commitment to turn. See, step 3 is not the turning. Step 3 is the decision to turn, the commitment to turn, and the public witness to that commitment and decision. Public witness because Bill suggests and the big book suggests that we pray this prayer with somebody else. That makes it public. And we're going to expand on that by doing it here in community. Normally, if we were in a single room, we would stand and we would form a very large circle, the capacity of the room, and maybe 2 or 3 circles, depending on the number of people and the size of the room. And we would stand shoulder to shoulder and we would hold hands. Obviously, we can't do that today, but I'm painting the picture for you to imagine when we do that later on in a little bit. I think it might be a wonderful meditation and a preparation, though, for you to, if you haven't already, and you have written out your 3rd step prayer and you want to read it out loud to us.
Dear God, I offer myself to you with all of my mind, heart, body, and soul. I thank you for the gift of your grace. May I always be willing to do whatever it is you ask of me. And if I should resist, allow me the grace of the pause to heal whatever it is, no matter how painful and uncomfortable it might be, so that I live each day as your beloved, the one whose heart you know and love.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. What was your experience of writing out your own prayer and now reading it out loud?
Well, what's been overwhelming me lately is what I've experienced and how I've grown up until this moment. And big deal of that is the pause.
Yeah.
And in the Psalms, the pause is Selah. And so I was smiling when I wrote this because I resisted it for a week, and then finally I was ready to do it. And I sat down and paused in the Selah, and this is what came forth.
You said a word I'm not familiar with, Selah. What does that mean?
That's in the Psalms, in the Bible, when, after the stanzas, they have the word Selah, Selah, and it means pause. That's where there's a pause.
Oh.
Or going on.
That might be Latin then. I don't know that. I don't know that word.
Yeah. And so I've just really embraced the pause.
Yeah. It's transformative. And that's the recommendation in the 10th and 11th step is that pause. When disturbed, pause, or when you need to make a decision in the 11th step, it says pause. And the longer the pause, probably the more effective is going to be the action afterwards.
Yes. And that's been such a gift. Such a gift.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
God, Spirit, Universe, heal me so that I may live a life more reflective of your will and design for me. Guide me in my actions so I may echo your highest good in working with others. Use me as your instrument to model joy and connection.
Yeah, yeah. And you notice, I'm going to point it out, that did not put an amen on the end of their prayer. And I may have made the comment before, the prayer in the Big Book doesn't have an amen. And that's unusual for a prayer, especially written in 1939. And so I've never read anything about Bill's consciousness in writing the prayer, but it seems to me, after having done the work many times, as I look back over my shoulder, that it's very intentional that he didn't have an amen at the end of the third step, because it's actually the beginning of a process of removing the obstacles in me so that the sunlight in me can shine to me. We can name those obstacles in step 4. We confess them in step 5. We name how they impact my behavior in step 6, seeing that I'm powerless over even my behavior. The source of the character defects. And then I pray the prayer, my Creator, which again, I believe is brilliant to start that prayer when I'm so conscious that I need to be radically changed in the 6th step. I'm so conscious of my powerlessness to do so. And I ask the originating source, my Creator, to recreate me, fix what is broken. My Creator is the way the 7-step prayer begins, and it ends with an amen. And I see step 3, the beginning of a process of the healing of myself, the soul surgery that the author group talks about, that concludes with amen at the end of the 7th step, the end of that process. And then we begin a new process in that 3rd stage of the rocket launch, steps 8, 9, and 10, if you wanted to be holistic about it in terms of 10 as the spot check inventory when I'm disturbed because of my relationships with others. And 8, 9, and 10 is the mechanism for healing my relationship with others. So that's my perspective on it. I just wanted to reinforce that and make that observation. Tell me, what was your experience in writing it out?
I felt very, I resisted it as I resisted it for a long time, and I really didn't want to do it. And then I had to call my stepdad.
Good for you.
Who was, yeah. And once I started doing it, and wrote it down, I felt very comfortable, and I felt like this is one of the first or one of the few times where I felt like I was having a real conversation. With, a connection in terms of not like there's something very real for me right there in that moment versus something imaginary.
Yeah, because prayer isn't about the words. It's about the intention that creates the words. And that's what you then investigate. What are the words in the Big Book? What's underneath it? What do they mean? What's their intention? And that helps you form your intention.
Right.
Wonderful.
Dearest God, I've made a mess of my life. I'm turning to you and placing myself in your loving care. I give up. I am humbly willing to have you direct my life. I pray that as you remove the blockages, the wreckages, and the difficulties of my life, that I may give others hope and they may see your power, your love, and your way of life. I pray I will learn to pause so that I may do your will always.
Nice. Good. Yep. And your experience in writing it out?
Really, it was turning back and looking at what my life had been, and just seeing how much I need that relationship. I just felt like I was coming towards that relationship with that power. It was, it was just like a magnetic force pulling me.
Yeah. I particularly have been entertaining that word in the last couple years, actually, in contrast also to radiate. And I'm bringing that to people's attention as part of their step 2 and step 3, but certainly maybe part of their step 11 quiet time. The word magnetic, drawing me to the center of where the source is in me, but the radiation coming from that center source out through me to the world around me. It has a particularly, for me, intriguing dynamic right now. Yeah, thank you for pressing my button. Anything else?
No, well, I love the invitation.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's it reframes the entire spiritual life, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah. Oh, I can respond. It's my decision. And I also can determine how I can respond, or even whether I'm going to respond. Yeah, it's very empowering, I think. Yeah, thank you so much.
I just want to say that I wrote my prayer before today, but I changed what I called God today. I had a total experience. I'd been working through the names of God, and I've always thought of God as my Father. It's just always been endearing. But just today, God brought me Redeemer. And so I just changed today. And the experience I had with that today was incredible. But I'll read my prayer.
Well,
Redeemer.
before you've teased me anyway, of curiosity, tell me a little bit more about number one, the dynamic of the choice of that term, as well as your experience with it.
Well,
you don't mind,
so I've been really doing a lot of meditation on those promises you showed us at the top of page 63. So this whole time we've been off, I've been reading those, meditating, and really asking God to show me where those promises have come true and if they really had, in my life. And so that's been a very, very unique experience through that. And then what I was coming about the Redeemer today just took me to a place. Okay, I think I had told you a couple of weeks ago about brokenness, that things are breaking off of me. Instead of it being me broken before I got here, it's me being in this kind of hardened cocoon of religious pride, is a lot of it, and of just my past experience and my willfulness. So as that's breaking away, what my Redeemer is, this morning, it was like all of a sudden, I'm opened up to what I've been redeemed from already. What God has done to redeem me from the food addict that was killing myself to a person that for today, time is not a tool. I know that. So I've been abstinent 558 days. And today I woke up powerless. So without this relationship that I'm developing on a level much deeper, though I have had what I thought was a very deep walk in the spirit, I hadn't even touched the surface. I had no idea that I had no idea that what I thought was walking in the Spirit was willfully walking as I thought God wanted me to. Okay, that's all I knew.
Right.
Now I find this Redeemer who has transformed all of that into a new experience, and is, because that grace and willingness got together,
Yeah.
as my deeper willingness, I'm getting deeper grace.
Yeah.
And as the Redeemer, my Father, who was my provider and loved me and accepted me, suddenly becomes my Redeemer, who's restoring me. He's restoring all the damage I've done. So yeah, I'm still just high from it.
Right.
And you know, I've carried it around all day, and I've shared it with several people, and it still is an experience I can't really explain. But
No, you've done a very nice job of sharing it with us. It reminds me of a prayer from Thomas Merton. Many of you may not know that Thomas Merton, it was a prolific writer, died in 1968, a monk in the monastery at Gethsemane in Kentucky, a Trappist monk, probably a prophet and a mystic, certainly a deep, deep spiritual thinker and writer. And he has a prayer in Thoughts in Solitude is the name of the book. And I'll paraphrase it. He said, Lord, I really want to do your will. I don't know whether I'm doing your will. I have not a clue that I'm doing your will, but I do believe that the desire to do your will pleases you. And that's what I'm hearing as part of your journey.
Yes, just that deep desire. This entire work is so transforming, and I get something, and I just go berserk about it, and then before I turn around, I get something. You know, so it's thank you so much.
You're welcome, and you were going to read your prayer. I
Yes, I'll read my prayer real quick. Redeemer.
You don't need to read it quick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a breath. Redeemer, I come in all I am to your throne of grace, to be emptied of who I've been and willing to be made new in your will, your way, and become your channel of grace to help others. Following your guidance each new day, your will, not mine, be done.
Yeah. The word that comes to me when I'm listening to you is both your comments beforehand and now is the metamorphosis, the transformation that a caterpillar receives going through the cocoon and dying and coming out as a monarch butterfly. Yeah.
That's interesting because I have actually been given a gift that said that 6 years ago when my husband passed. I was given a card that said, you've been in a cocoon and you are going, and it had a butterfly on it, and this journey is your transformation. Yeah. And so I've carried that, and I do believe that I'm experiencing just the tip of it. I haven't arrived at anything.
No, but you're preparing yourself for an additional gift. Yeah.
Yes.
And anybody who wants to incorporate something very special in their quiet time, I'm suggesting that you do a Google on the monarch butterfly and watch a 4-minute time lapse picture of the transition from the seed that makes the caterpillar, the chrysalis that is made by the caterpillar, and the butterfly that emerges. It takes 4 minutes, and it captures exactly what I'm talking about and what we are going to experience now that we're going into the chrysalis. I just got emotional. Huh. This work of steps 4 through 9 is the death of the ego. It's the death of the false self. So at least this is my poetic metaphor for what I've experienced and what I anticipate you will also. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It starts like this. Dear Sophia, I am making a decision to commit myself to you, to work with me and do with me as you will. I understand I am a slave to self. Please free me from this bondage. I will then be capable and have willingness to be in alignment with your will. Please take away my difficulties so that your light and love can shine through me to others. I will then be of use to you on this earth and follow your way of life.
Yeah, nice. And as you noted, I'm sure, for me, the key word for step 3 is alignment. Placing ourselves in alignment with the flow of life is really the image that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that is the hope.
Right.
You know, and the prayer here, the request, not the demand, but the request and the acknowledgement too on my part, I think. But yeah, then in regards to, like you asked a few people like what their experience was, but like the invitation to look at this prayer really has helped me a lot to understand it way better. I did try to say it, you know, on a regular basis and wasn't doing it. And I think this is going to really, really help me do that. I like the word wilt. I don't know where it comes from, but you don't see it very often out in general language, but I didn't put it in, but I did have, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, I did have to call somebody in regards to, this is a few days ago, when I was looking at the word take away my difficulties, I was getting a little paranoid about that because I thought it was, maybe it meant another part of my codependency. You know, if I'm powerful, if God takes away my difficulties, I can help my loved ones better. Do you know what I mean? And then I'll be able to fix them even better.
Well, what's wrong with that? If you reframe that from a codependent language, it sounds to me like a wonderful 12th step ambition.
Okay, thanks.
Well,
and then I got,
my own spiritual director said when I got concerned about my own narcissism and doing this kind of work, it gives me a lot of visibility, which might corrupt, in fact, my motives. He said, be concerned, but never let your concern get in the way of helping people. And then he said, God writes straight with crooked lines.
Yeah.
So, you've got some crooked lines. Of course you do. But that's the very grist for the mill that God will use to make you useful.
Yeah. And that's, you know, and I'm on the Enneagram, I'm a 2, which is helping, always helping and be of use, you know, that it's almost like it's bizarre how it's like a drive. And so I had to put that in this one too, so I can be of use to you. Yeah. Not that I think God doesn't love me, even if I'm not useful, but you know what I'm meaning.
I do. I do.
But anyway.
Yeah. The important point is that you know what you mean.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, see, you're not just mouthing words now. You're using words to reveal to us your experience and your intention.
Yeah. It actually came through, I was trying to do that 2-way prayer too. And I asked in the prayer, it's something about, please help me. You know, I realized I said that I can only be of use and to you by having your light shine through me to others. And I said, please help that to happen. And then in the answer that I found that I found that God gave me, or what I wrote anyway. It was summarizing it. It said, I think you're on the right track. Your purpose is to be humble and to do my will. My will is loving kindness to all. And once someone is loved, they have a new beginning. I know you want to help others, and the only way is through love. Discerning what actual love is important. And as you get the addictions underfoot, and they are not in such a predominant space in your life, my light will be more visible and available to shine through you. And the third step prayer will be being answered. Love God. So that's where it came from, came from that two-way prayer there. Because and that was a few days ago. And then you know how it all kind of it starts out there and then it comes to here, and it's all great, really great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You know, when we first got the notice that we were going to skip a week, I was a little bit sad about that because we were really rolling along. But it gave me an opportunity to go back and review steps 1, 2, and 3 again.
Yeah.
And I really needed to go back and take a look at powerlessness again, because this whole thing about step 3 with having a relationship with God, Herb, I always said that I had a relationship with God, and I truly meant it.
Yep.
But having this new experience now in your workshop, it really opened up my heart and my soul to what a relationship is. I struggled with the word powerless because I just couldn't grasp it. I didn't know what it meant. But your teaching about power in the third step, and especially I think about the line in that chapter where it says that we could not wish or try to be rid of our self-centeredness. We had to have God's help. And I really have come to this conclusion that all through my sobriety, with good intentions and really meaning it, I tried so hard to get it right, Herb, and I couldn't do it.
Yep.
Just get there.
Yep.
And then this thing about having a relationship with God, I mean, I became a Christian right after I got sober 29 years ago. And I've always talked about this personal relationship with the Lord, but I always felt like there was some sort of a roadblock there,
I do.
Yeah, and so I know that I knew it in my head, and I think that at times I probably had emotional feelings about it at church services and worship services and things like that felt really good at the time, but I see now that it really truly wasn't a relationship, because I really just put the wall up. There was no relationship to be had. I loved when you asked the question about what is it you yearn for in a relationship.
Yeah.
I really had to pray about that one, Herb, because, oh my gosh, I really just desire that strong relationship with God. And things have happened over the last few weeks in that have given me proof that God has the power and that He's there and He wants to help me and He loves me. And all I need to do is just get in line with Him and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And it feels, I don't want to say feel too much, but it just.
No, it's okay. In the context you're using it, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it is such a confirmation. I was telling my wife about it this morning because I'd had some things going on this week, pretty stressful time with the board that I'm on. And you know how it is when you wake up in the middle of the night and you recognize that the first thing you think about is that thing that's on your mind. Mm-hmm. And so that happened to me, and I laid back down in bed, and I look at God as my comforter and my advocate and my helper. And I just said, Lord, I know that you want to comfort me. I know that you love me, and I'm just going to trust you with this. And within a matter of minutes, I was right back to sleep and able to talk to my wife about this morning. It was really awesome.
Yeah, wonderful that you have a companion to be able to share your life with like that.
Oh my gosh, it's a huge blessing, Herb. Yeah. Sometimes, I know that's the grace of God too. So I wanted to read my thing for the third step prayer. I've always, in my meditation time, I've reworded these prayers a lot because that's kind of what I'm led to do sometimes. But I wrote this down because it's kind of where, through your teaching in the workshop where I'm at right now. And it's, God, I am saying yes to you. I'm comforted that you are the power in my life. Do whatever you want with me. I trust you because I know you care about me. Turn me away from my self-centeredness so that my family and friends will notice a real change in my attitudes and behavior. And they will know that this change is a result of me living in alignment with you. And I'm getting goosebumps just reading that, Herb.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Herb. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks for sharing it with us.
Grandmothers, here I am, in all my beauty and my scars, both healed and unhealed. Hold my hand as I step into the flow of your waters and allow me to channel your strength and love to all I meet today. Help me hear your voice through the day as I navigate difficult waters, because I know every lesson I learn I can pass on. Hold my hand as I face today's reality.
Nice.
Amen.
Yeah. It's a wonderful poetic image, holding my hand. At the end of the fifth step, it suggests the promises of the fifth step. And it says, as we walk hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. And I was struck, and I didn't make comment on, but earlier, I really encouraged the women to at least entertain a feminine energy in terms of the higher power, as you just did. And as somebody previously had mentioned, Sophia, and I wanted to make comment. Sophia is a Greek word for wisdom, and it's the feminine energy of the divine in the Greek mythology. I just wanted to reinforce the use of the word that woman used, Sophia, as an exploration for both men and women. There's no, I've explored it myself back in the day when I was looking for alternative relationships as well as experiences. So what was your experience in writing that out? Now, you obviously enjoyed it because of, I could tell in the tone of your voice and the face expressions.
Living here right next to the Navajo Nation, and, we're all in our 12-step meetings together. My mind has opened up to just going ahead and saying it, even if it's not the way everybody else is saying it. Right. But I feel very connected to the elder women that came before me. And I've always loved the image, and you've done this too, of that slight shifting and getting in the flow, and the water for me really works, and or tapping into that electricity. It's just allow me to tap into that, whatever that, like you said, great mystery is. Let me tap into it. Let me try to get out of myself and then pass that on. It's kind of like that.
Well, that's the image that Bill uses in the appendix 2, in that crossover between 567 and 568. He says, tapped an unsuspected inner resource. It's exactly that image.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's another sort of a imagery that helps us kind of unpack this mystery for the moment and explore it, kind of munch on it until it doesn't have any more spiritual juice, and then move on to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And add twinkly lights and sparkles.
There you go. Some of us have more imagination than others.
And that's why I love the holidays. I like the lights.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Herb.
Thanks.
I've tried so hard to have this relationship with a higher power, and I fought so much. I went, well, act as if that doesn't do anything. You just opened me up to it's aligning my will. Aligning my will it's more than just opening up or finding someone. So it really gave me power. And that I can do this.
That's a really, really powerful insight, actually. I don't believe we've explored that. And that is, we go into step 3 recognizing and sort of pushed by our experience of powerlessness in our desperate search for power. But step 3 itself is the first acknowledgement that empowers us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the steps 4 through 9 is the real, how would you say, dismantling of the false self, the delusion of control, where we accept the mantle and responsibility of decisions and the consequences of those decisions, but 100% responsibility for them, which is totally empowering.
Yes.
And giving us the freedom that really is optimal humanity. So thank you for pressing my button on that one. I don't think I've explored it that way before with this group.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Herb.
I have raised monarch butterflies. I babysat for them, and the caterpillar transitioning into the chrysalis looks like a very laborious experience, but the chrysalis has those gold dots all around the top crown, and then in a diagonal, which I'm not sure what serves the nature purpose, except maybe something shiny so that other things don't eat it, because most of these things, but it is a gorgeous chartreuse green decorated with these beautiful gold jewels, it looks like.
I did not know that. Yeah.
And then it turns dark, and then the butterfly comes out, and the butterfly staggers around.
Yeah.
Drunk like, and you just hope. And then, they fly thousands of miles, even with a broken wing.
One of the, before, I want you to continue, but also I want to make this observation that the life of the butterfly is contingent on their ability to break the chrysalis, the shell, and that's how they strengthen their wings in order to survive. So they cannot have any outside help that breaks the shell. Otherwise, the butterfly will be crippled and will die, which is really kind of interesting too. So stay with the third step, please.
Okay, the third step. Yes, well, I really identified a lot with powerlessness, surrender. Those kinds of words have always been almost repulsive to me. And I have not gone very happily towards them, although I recognize that they were critical to my recovery, but I didn't know how to do it. And there's something in the big book, as well as, I don't know, there's so many things that have transformed me. And but just the willingness to open the door a little bit means that I have access. I don't have to be all this list of things to get the love or the unconditional love that is there. And I have always operated as an outside circle trying to get in somewhere. And so that was so critical for me to know that. I'm not sure what all the deep layers of that is about, but anyway, the big book, all those bedevilments, and I have every damn one of them, and in spades. So it's, and I've been in this program a long time, and anyway, I just, powerlessness and surrender have a different resonance with me now, and they are almost softened, and it's okay that I need to surrender, that I am powerless. I'm not a freak, and that it has love on the other side of it. And I really haven't understood love or known it or felt it or really been able to give it like I would like to. And even with my grandchildren, there's been some obstacles, and that's a pitiful report, you know. And so this kind of jarring the door open has made an opportunity, and the word invitation has been used a lot. It's used in our Sacred Sisters, and 3 of them have already talked to you, and I think they've all used it. But I love that word. It is an invitation to love. And I am just, I mean, it's like I almost want to cover my face. So the 3rd step prayer is kind of like, for me, somebody that is there, somebody's there listening, somebody's there responding, somebody's a witness, somebody's going to be there for me or show me, and be consistent and be reliable and be there. And so my 3rd prayer goes like, loving mystery mother, I submit my life application to join your force. I trust the Spirit to include me in the work, capitalized work, and guide me. I trust that I will be given the spiritual energy, mindset, necessary tools to love.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I've never capitalized W work, and that really presses my button, because this is sacred work. Yeah.
It is sacred work, and what I mean by that is giving the self to others.
Yeah, no, I got it 100%. Thank you. That was wonderful. Yeah. And what was your experience in writing it?
Well, my experience in writing it is that I've had a lot more compassion for myself, and that compassion is like growing a flower in my brain. I don't know why, but it is. And I mean, even when I have interactions with my husbands that hurt my feelings, I just offer up a lot of compassion for myself.
Yeah.
Probably the next stage is to offer up some compassion with him for what I did before that made him react that way, but we'll get there. And
yes, no, that's a really good insight, because that's reading what we're going to experience in step 4, is that your husband cannot hurt your feelings.
Yes.
No, do you know that?
I'm not there, but I understand it.
See, that was what I needed when I was 4 years, 5 years sober, going through this work for the very first time. I needed the information first, then I was able to understand it, then I was able to experience it. So that's why I teach the way I do. We need the information. That's how we learn how to take actions that will, in fact, create the change that is the transformation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I just have experienced more lively fun.
Great.
You know, I am a very fun-seeking person, and I mean, it used to be to a fault just to take the low-hanging fruit to kind of, you know,
Right.
just me as much as the food, but it's different now. It's just a sincere joy in spirited relationships. Recognizing the graces in my life that I did not recognize before. So thank you.
No, and that's the point of a gratitude sort of attitude in the morning, and maybe even a list. It opens the heart up to look at the blessings.
Lord, I offer myself to you. Please nourish and sustain me. Be my fullness and my ever-presence, that I will be filled by you, not self, not lesser things, that I may better do your will.
Yeah.
I think I just tacked that last line on, but the other part is the real prayer.
Well, actually, the real prayer is, thy will be done. That's the essence of all of our prayers in the real authentic thing, because knowing I can't do it, but I'm willing to have it done to me, for me, as a channel. So thy will be done. That's the way the step 11 instructions in the big book ends on page 88. Thy will be done. So it's the heart of the matter. I just wanted to reinforce that. Nice work. And as you constructed it, what was your experience?
Well, ever since you asked what I'm yearning for, I think you and I actually talked one night, and I said fullness.
Yeah.
And little by little, that started to make more sense in my life, or more, not even sense, probably nonsense, but more something in my life that rang true.
Yeah.
And I find that when I wake up in the morning, I say the step 3 prayer before I even get out of bed, because I was told by someone to do that. But throughout the day, I actually find myself saying something like this more. When I get panicked or frantic, or I stop and I say, nourish and sustain me, be my fullness, be my ever presence. Yeah. And I find that it calms me, because there's something in me that isn't full, that isn't still and calm. But if I stop and say those words, I find that it's right.
I think that awareness was sort of the reason for the development of the term and my constant use of the term yearn. Because each one of us has sought the fullness inappropriately with our addictions. And it never did fill us. Oh, momentarily it did, but not in the long term. It doesn't fill us. And Carl Jung said that in his letter to Bill Wilson, that we have this deep capacity that we want to have filled or satiated, and we turn to food or drugs or alcohol or relationships as a misperception of what in fact will satisfy this hunger, this thirst. And he has, and I've mentioned it before, I believe, but he has this Latin phrase, spiritus contra spiritum. The spirit with a capital S is the antidote to spirits with a small s. This hunger, this desire for fullness, we misread all the time. It's really, as Pascal said, the hole in us is in the shape of God. The hole in us is in the shape of God. Anything else that we try to fill that hole with won't do it. It's the wrong, whatever it is, source. Yeah. So thank you.
My experience with writing this prayer was that I kept going back to it. I kept finding myself reading the 3rd step prayer over and over again.
Yes.
Back to it to see, what it was really saying.
Yeah.
Because I truly do want to be changed and want God to be able to use me. And I know that the biggest obstacle is me.
Yeah.
And, I just want to be rid of that selfishness. So here's my prayer. God, I offer all of me to you to change, mold, and use me as thy will. I pray that my selfishness, self-centeredness, hurt, and pain be removed, for I know that these are the things that block me from being useful to others. I pray that I may be a channel of your love and power, and that I do thy will always.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I again, different words press my button, and the word channel always presses my button. It's the key word in the prayer of St. Francis, but it also for me is the key word in my whole image of being in the flow.
Mm-hmm.
The flow. I'm a container of the Spirit, and I'm a conduit of the Spirit. And so I love the word channel.
I love the word channel too, and I read that St. Francis prayer every day. And channel just invokes thoughts of water, like passing through, like it's passing through me.
Yeah.
And it's just such a beautiful, feeling.
Yeah.
And third step prayer, it's like, I love the prayer the way that it is, really.
Yeah.
But,
me too, absolutely. Yeah.
And, and I was like, I just, when I was listening to everybody else's prayer, I was like, well, my prayer really isn't that deep, because some people's prayers sounded like poetry. It was just so beautiful. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm just, I'm real simple about it, but it's me, and that's one of the things that I have to get out of, comparing myself to other people, because I'm enough, I'm enough. And that's one of the things that I have to tell myself all the time. I am enough.
Yeah.
So thank you for the exercise.
You're welcome. You're welcome. A channel of water. And the fourth step is the roto-rooter that opens up the channel.
Thank you, Herb.
Yeah. It's good to have humor.
Dear miraculous power of healing love, I offer every part of myself to you, to build with me and alchemize my fragmented selves towards your higher good. Release me from the bondage of self-centered fear that I may feel connected to you. Take away my addictions, fears, resentments, delusions, dualistic thinking, and self-seeking motives, that victory over them may bear witness to God's creatures, that I may help people, animals, and the planet itself of your infinite power, love, and your way of life. May I yearn for your will and power as you yearn for my attention today. Thank you.
Nice. And you used again a key word that is one of my trigger words, and that is alchemy. I'm not going to comment on it, but I really recommend everybody look that word up. It's as powerful as the word metamorphosis for the work that we're about to do, steps 4 through 9, alchemy. Yeah. What was your experience in writing the prayer?
Well, it's funny because I had this old fixed idea. Somebody who I respect a whole big lot, who was one of my first people that introduced me to the big book, said, I've always tried to do everything my way. So when it came to this prayer, he's just decided to leave it the way it is. And so I've kind of had that attachment because this is somebody like you who I admire and respect on my journey. But, I just opened it up. So for years I've been saying it as is, but the only thing I changed was where we'd say, take away my difficulties, I would kind of elaborate on that. Yeah. But I decided just, over the process of hearing other people do it, I was like, what the hell? I mean,
exactly.
Just because I like this person and respect him doesn't mean, what's right for one person at one time isn't right for somebody else,
I'm glad that you used the set-aside attitude and you approached it. It sounds to me like you had a rich experience in doing it. It's wonderful. Thank you for participating.
Really close to God. Thank you.
Thank you.
God, Goddess, ancestors, I simply come to you as I am. I am willingly turning to you to live a life and co-creating love and light, to be of service to others as a sober, loving woman. May I always stand at the water's edge and hear your gentle whispers in my ear. Allow me to partake in your mystery, laughter, and the divine love. You know me. I abandon myself to you, my sacred friend. May you keep me current, open, and willing to walk hand in hand, feeling your pulse within mine.
Yeah. You connected it at a deep level. Just reading it out loud. Was this the first time you read it out loud?
Yes.
Yeah, I could tell because you connected with the truth of it for yourself, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, very powerful.
Yeah, thank you.
Any comments that you want to make?
My resistance to do it was just based on that. It really rooted out that like a God of my understanding. I get to stand in the light, the light, not someone else's, mine.
Yeah.
And my resistance was coming from not writing these words down that I really needed to write down.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thanks very much.
I just want to say I had a hard time because I wanted this prayer to be perfect. I wanted this prayer to be, something that people read in 200 years, like the Gettysburg Address.
Or like the St. Francis prayer, yes.
Something.
Yes.
And so there's a huge part of me that is so prideful. And this is just my prayer. It's just for me.
Yes, it is.
So I wrote, and I just want to say, it has been so helpful to me to honestly, what do I believe is God? And it has opened up a whole new experience for me. And so I wrote, God, here I am, your creation. Thank you for the gift of my life. Please help me to be the best version of myself, with the hope that I might be an example to others of what your love, power, and support can do for a troubled soul. Help me to be ever mindful of your presence today so that I might do your will. Help me to fulfill your purpose for my creation. Or no amen.
Well, you're welcome to an amen. It's your prayer. Wonderful. And as you constructed it, obviously it was very yours. You owned it with your own phrases and words. What was your experience in doing that?
Well, it was, I must have wrote 10 revisions of it.
Good.
There's so much information that you're giving us, and I'm having a hard time putting it into a cohesive practice, I guess. Yes. But, and just something else, that meditation that you wrote in the third step, that in your book, 12 steps, I can't tell you how moving that is to me.
Wonderful.
And I sent it to my brother, who donated a kidney today.
Wow.
And he just called me and he kept saying, like a fish lives in water, let me live in God. Wow. It's just beautiful. Thank you.
That's a great image. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Yep.
Spirit, here I am, fully ready to align my will with yours. Relieve me of the suffering that my self-centeredness causes myself and others. May I be willing to let go of my selfishness that keeps me separate from you and my fellows. May this change in me be proof of your love for me and those that suffer. May your love be manifest in me.
Thank you very much. And as you approached it with all your years, what was your experience with the process?
Well, like I said, it was, I've been feeling very conflicted about the prayer because it has become so rote for me. So this was, it forced me to read it over and over. It forced me to look at it and what it means to me.
Yeah.
And also to use my own frame of reference.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
And it just is so rich. And, to put it in my own words, I think makes it more immediate. And
it personalizes at least the meaning, so that when you say the actual prayer in the book, it has more juice.
Right.
Yeah. That's my
Juicy
experience.
prayer.
Say it again.
It's a juicy prayer.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Yeah. And as we become conscious when we pray it, some new juices begin to flow at different times also. Yeah.
I realized that even though I wrote a prayer a week or so ago, that it really was more from my head than my heart. And that I wanted to get more real about it. I am aware that I need to get out of my head more and down into my gut and my heart. And so I wrote out the prayer from the book line by line and left space for me to translate it. I found that I rebelled very strongly against the old biblical language, and I think that's the stuff that I was trained up in and found not coming to my not being relevant to my life, unfortunately, such as it was presented to me. So anyway, my latest prayer goes like this. Dearest companion and guide, I come to you for direction, guidance, comfort, and support as I travel these later years of my journey on earth. I know now how much I need you to talk with, to listen to learn from, and just be with. Today and every day, I will strive with your help to have your wisdom, your love, your peace flow within me and from me to all that I encounter. Take my hand and lead me on.
In the promises on page 75 has that image, and it's just a wonderful image of hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder companionship on this journey, which is what I heard from deep within you, which is wonderful. Yeah.
And one of the songs that goes through my mind when I do my morning prayer and meditation and so contemplation is the old hymn, Blessed Lord, take my hand, lead me on. And it was from that. I'm used to writing informational, and it was very, very, very worthwhile to get beyond that.
Yeah.
I like the idea of we thought well before taking this step. I'm cautious. I feel like I got burned once, so not recently, but way back when. So I wanted to make sure of what I was saying and what I was signing up to,
Sure.
And just what I was committing to, and it was different. It was deeper. It was more emotional than last time when I did it in the last workshop through. So well worth redoing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you're a different person at a different stage of your own personal spiritual evolution. So of course you're going to have a different experience when you bring with it such intention as you have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
This process has been awkward for me, I guess you'd say. I realized as I was trying to write the prayer that I really have a revulsion. I can't say God. I can't pray to God. I don't know what that means. I don't like the idea. And so thank you very much for giving me your little blessing the other day and and saying it was all right for me to associate with this wonderful man I knew who died, but who is somehow still present, or I don't know how, but in my life. And so I wrote a letter, and this morning I read it to my sponsor, who said, "That sounds just like a love letter. I mean, it's supposed to be a prayer."
Oh, wait, I love a love letter. Wait a minute, go, man.
Well, here we go. Dear one, I trust in our spiritual connection. I trust in your wisdom, vision, and judgment. I trust in the loving warmth with which you surround me so often. I trust in your sense of humor, which brings me back to the flow through laughter. I trust in your ongoing love and desire to support me in this life. I am in awe that our connection continues even some years after your death, and even my new love relationship here on this earth. I am sure that you made that happen. Your fingerprints are all over it. Thank you. Now I'm asking if you will help me work through my addiction and the bedevilments, as you once said you would, in any way I can. You and I experienced a shared love that spilled out all over everyone we knew. I want to be that open and in the world again. I want to spill over with love in all directions. I don't want the flow to be clogged by my manufactured stuck places. I want to talk them over with you and learn how to keep the flow abundant and uninterrupted. I want to share the wealth that vulnerability and openness brings me. Please help me. For my part, I will listen with great care. Your words have always been filled with tenderness and wisdom. I miss him.
Yeah.
I am willing to trust that the deep connection we once shared on earth still connects our spirit. I have known it in the past and trusted in the present and the future. Bless you, my dear one, today and every day. Thank you for our forever sharing. I believe in it.
Wow. Yeah, of course. The whole time, right from the beginning that you were reading, the only word that I had in my resonating with it was spirit. Yeah.
Yeah. We connected. He was dying when I met him, and we connected.
Wow.
At the spirit level, and it was profound.
Yeah.
Profound. And it connected. It's like it's real. It's like I ask.
Very real. No, it's very real, and it's wonderful because the third step is a commitment to action, and the key word that you used was trust.
Over and over. Yeah.
Yeah. And trust is, in fact, the word for the behavior that follows the commitment. Yeah. If, in fact, you make a decision and you don't take any action, nothing's going to happen. But if, in fact, you make a decision and you take some action, you're trusting the process.
Spirit Guide Creator, I am committing to a one-on-one relationship with you, to be open and willing to follow your directions and will. Please remove my inherent selfishness, self-centeredness, turn my thinking and actions away from self so I can cooperate and align with you and be useful to others. Take away the resentment, dishonesty, and most of all, fear that block my conscious relationship with you. So your power, love, and way of life will shine in and through me, encouraging others to seek you. God, I will continue to seek you daily through prayer and meditation for guidance and power, knowing that your ways are always higher than my ways.
Yeah. And as you were discerning and writing that out, what was your experience with it?
Well, I think I'm still cut off from my feelings and emotions, but I think what I'm just really committed to this process and doing this work, like you said, and I'm just trusting what you said. The miracle will happen. So I don't know when it'll happen, but I'm committed to do my prayer and meditation in the morning, and my little evening review. I do my 10th steps, and and I reach out and I try to be helpful to others and be of service. So I'm doing everything I know to do.
That's right. That's right. And stay as my image for me, and I offer it to others, is to stay gently pressed up against it. Life, the steps, the spirit, the tools, the daily navigation of our lives and the speed bumps of it. Just stay gently pressed up against it all, trusting the process. And then here's where the key is: be prepared to be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because as you said, you don't know when it's going to happen. In fact, maybe many of you don't even think it's going to happen for you. It's okay. It's okay. Be willing to be surprised. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. As somebody mentioned, you all have quite a lot of courage to be so personal as also so vulnerable. I want to lead you through the third step prayer now. You don't need to know it. You don't need to read it. You don't need to have it in front of you. I will lead you one word, one phrase at a time, like we did in the monastery. It's called Antiphonal Prayer, meaning anti, back and forth, phonal, sound, like a tennis match. One group of monks on the left-hand side of the chapel began a prayer. The monks on the right-hand side of the chapel responded, and back and forth they prayed antiphonally. I'm going to, in a minute, begin the prayer from the big book on page 63. You don't need to look at it. It's better that actually you don't. That you, in fact, maybe be here present, open eyes or closed eyes, and that you have in your imagination, in your memory, in your consciousness, the concept that you made a decision about in step 2. What was the concept? What are the words and the phrases of the concept of higher power, God, as we don't understand it? What is the relationship that you made a decision about, that you yearn for from the marrow of your soul, the deepest part in your being and consciousness, that you really want to have? And maybe you haven't even got words for it, which is just fine. But you have this longing for something to bring fullness to each of us. Open with the set-aside attitude and the set-aside prayer to have new concepts and new words and new feelings and new awarenesses about that. But that, in fact, this effort that we're going to, this exercise that we're going to engage in, is our commitment in public. You've made it already by showing up and being here. You've made the commitment to turn. The third step is done, but now you're going to proclaim public witness in this community, this cohort, this band of brothers and sisters walking on this journey, which we've begun together. We've been several months together, and we will be several months together as we continue the journey. And in our imagination, picture us in a room. It's pretty easy to do with everybody so wonderfully present to us on our screens, holding hands shoulder to shoulder, praying this prayer. God, I offer myself to you to build with me and to do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do your will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of your power, your love, and your way of life. May I do your will always. Now I invite you to, still all muted, I invite you to pray in unison the prayer from the big book. If you need to look at the book or a sheet of paper for the prayer, that's fine. But I'm inviting you now as kind of a sense of conclusion together in community and have the flow of the prayer prayed together. God, I offer myself to you to build with me and to do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do your will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of your power, your love, and your way of life. May I do your will always. Bill says at the end of the page 63 and the instructions on step 3 that you might have an experience with this. It's only a beginning, but if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. But he's very quick to point out that we have launched on a course of vigorous action, and this is the first piece of work in that course. The course is steps 4 through 9, as I've reminded you throughout our time today together. But this step 4 is the first step of a personal house cleaning. He says on page 64, this decision that you made is vital, meaning life-giving, coming from the Latin word vitae, and crucial, meaning at the crossroads, coming from the Latin cruce, cross, at the crossroads. It could have little permanent effect, meaning it will have a temporary effect, but not a permanent one. It might last a minute, it might last a month, but it won't last long unless at once followed by a strenuous effort. Notice his jackhammer words. An adjective, maybe an adverb, I'm not sure. Strenuous effort to face, meaning to name, step 4, and to be rid of, steps 5, 6, and 7. The things in ourselves which have been blocking us from, oh, that would be God, that would be light, that would be power. The clouds in us that are the obstacles to the sunlight. Our addiction is merely a symptom. We have to get down to causes and conditions. I recommend that you read and highlight the balance of that page and take a look at the instructions on resentment, coming from the Latin word sentire. Sentire means to feel. Resentment is a feeling of anger. Re in front of sentire, re sentire means you feel it again and again and again. And this is not about a memory of your anger. This is about anger that you experience today. It may have happened 40 years ago. It may have happened 4 minutes ago. It's not about the time that it happened. It's about the feeling that you have today. And make a list of those resentments, or begin making a list, just a spontaneous list from your head, from your heart, from your gut, from your awareness. I'm not giving you any specific instructions yet. I will next week. But just begin allowing it to flow from your head and your heart and your gut, through your arm, to your pen, to your fingers, to a paper. Doesn't matter what paper, it doesn't matter what form. I'll explain all of that beginning next week. And next week, we'll start off with a debrief on your observations and questions and maybe your experience with what we did today. And then we'll get into the first instructions in a deep dive on step 4 with resentments. Join me now in the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you, everybody. Wonderful session. And we've now the real work begins.